first off, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and be here in the training and startup of our auto gas unit. The first thing I kind of wanted to cover is safety, because everybody's safety first, and 6 feet. So I feel a little intimidated by the Dead River folks because they're propane people, and I sometimes can baffle my way through some of this stuff, but these guys are going to hopefully keep me on track. Some of the characteristics of propane, again, I don't know how much everybody knowledge is, so I just want to cover some basics of characteristics of propane. If you had a bucket of propane and a bucket of water, they would look the same. If anybody was wondering about that, the propane is clear, liquid, and it boils and vaporizes, and that's what creates the vapor that a lot of us use in our barbecue bottles, our home use, RVing. I did make me some notes here. I'm going to use them for a few minutes. Propane is heavier than air, so if you ever get propane that gets away from you in a field, on a hot day like today, it's going to cloud a little bit and evaporate very, very fast. On a cold, humid day, you would see if propane some got away from you, you'd see it cloud up, and it would hover along the ground looking for a low spot until it evaporated. And so obviously we don't want to have propane get away from us, but if it does, we hope that it is on a warm, sunny day that allows it to evaporate fast, because we just don't want it to puddle up somewhere and hang there like on a humid day. Propane weighs 4.25 pounds per gallon. So many of you has filled a 20-pound cylinder for your barbecue, empty. Most of the bottles weigh 16 pounds when they're full. Another 20 pounds on top of it. So that gives you an idea of what it weighs. And what diesel fuel's what, 8? I think 7 or 8 pounds per gallon for diesel fuel. So propane's about half the weight. We've all smelled propane. It's got that rotten egg odorant to it. That is injected into the propane because it is odorless. So they put the mercaptan in to allow us to detect it wherever it might be and smell it. So we've all smelled and been around that before. They talk a little bit about odor fade. You hope that you don't get a load that wasn't injected with that, because you would be in a situation where you wouldn't be able to detect it. So the mercaptan is injected into the load. It's interesting, there's 92,000 BTU in a gallon of vapor in a gallon of propane. So it's kind of fun to, because people will say, well, how long can I burn my Mr. Heater when they're out camping? Or how long will this go? Well, if you have 6,000 BTU heater and 92,000 BTU in a gallon, you can do the math and determine how long you can run that appliance on that amount of gas. So just characteristics and food for thought. 1 gallon of propane, 1 gallon, will vaporize into 270 square feet of vapor space. So you can see that 1 gallon creates a lot. So when we see accidents or mishaps and knock on wood and stuff, we don't ever have to deal with that. But knowing that there's that much vapor in 1 gallon, you can sure see why we see some of the mishaps that happen that are nasty. There's a lot of vapor there that can go up. Propane, when it gets to 42 below zero, is when it quits boiling or quits vaporizing. And so you, like up in the northern areas like Alaska, further north, a lot of those folks use furnace oil because propane won't vaporize past 42 below zero. And you've noticed if you've ever got propane on you on any day, you release and let it go on your finger. It'll burn for a second, but evaporates pretty fast. But it is pretty cold. 42 below is a pretty cold spot to be in. Now, I want this to be informal. So if anybody has any questions or comments, I want comments, you guys. Now this group over here, I want comments. Some of the safety things I wanted to cover was the things that I look at when I go to dispense is, one, if some propane was to get away from me, where is it going to go? Where would it go? If I'm here filling a bus or a vehicle and I tighten that down on there, and for some odd reason it doesn't seal, and I start it and I'm back over here doing something, come back and I got me a big old fog of propane, where's it going to go? Well, number one, we want to see where's the wind blowing. Which way is the wind blowing? Which way is it going to take us and carry the propane away? Naturally, on a day like today, it's going to hover to a low spot. On a windy day, it may blow it to the road. So as we come out to dispense the gas, we want to take a look at our surroundings. Now obviously we've got a lot of engines that can start out here. That's an ignition source. So we want to be real cautious on our wind and our safety when we dispense this stuff. Another important part, where's my fire extinguisher? Now, in a propane situation, if we ever had it get away from us, it might be really good to see the fire extinguisher. Depending on what the size of it is, we grab it and we throw it at it and we keep on going, because we don't want to get into any trouble that way. But anyway, that's kind of being facetious, because I think most of us in a situation we're going to try really hard to contain the flame. Doesn't mean that we should get in there and get in trouble, but we grab the fire extinguisher, we know where it's at, we can get to it. And we want to familiarize ourselves with the emergency shutoff. Now, this unit has emergency shutoff right here, but I know that there's got to be another electrical.
That's box
that's
right
it
there.
right there. Okay, so when we come out to this side, we're going to say, okay, I got here, my fire extinguisher's there. It's a nice, easy day. Don't really need to worry about wind too much. But where's my closest spark? I don't know. Maybe the bay over there has a water heater in there. I don't know. But we get an idea where we're at. And with any luck at all, we don't ever have to cross that bridge. But we want safety, and everybody's safety to be probably not probably, but to be number one priority when we're dispensing this. Our protective equipment, gloves, glasses, shields. Anybody ever? I'll look at this bunch over here. Anybody ever get propane on their clothes? Probably all you guys have. I'm not so sure about this bunch, but it freezes. So if you got some on your pants, it would sit there and actually burn on your pants, not freezer burn, not match lit burn. But it would sit there and it would penetrate in, and finally it'd get your skin, and it would burn till it evaporated. And that makes a pretty uncomfortable situation. So when we use this, we want to use rubber gloves, because leather gloves would absorb the liquid and your hand would continue to burn in there. And in experience with the rubber gloves out in the field, run a bobtail truck for several years, you're going to get propane on you. And it's kind of funny. If anybody's ever done this, you'll have your hand in the glove, and let's say you get quite a bit on there, your glove will be sitting there, look like a claw. You pull your hand right out of it, and your glove's going to sit there looking like a claw. So it takes a little bit for it to evaporate and get away. So it's important that we use the correct safety equipment, and I'm sure that you're all over that to make sure these folks have the right PPE. I don't know whether I'd recommend shorts, but probably dress codes and standards at work are probably for jeans and longer clothes, just so you are protected, because you don't want that stuff on you. Questions or comments on safety? Okay. Make sure I covered all my safety, or some of my safety that I had.
You're recommending safety goggles and face shield?
Safety goggles, face shield, because when that hits, again, it's kind of like water. It evaporates real fast,
Yeah.
but if comes down, splashes back up.
Yeah.
It'll get you. Those who have drove or ridden in a bobtail or been around, oftentimes, sometimes you take and take the nozzle off of the tank, and propane will be in there bubbling around.
Yeah.
And one day I decided that I was done waiting, and there was a pretty good puddle in a fill port on a tank, so I decided, well, I'll hurry and dispense that. So I went down and I blew on it, and it came back up on my lip, and it burned my lip, and you get the old blister on your lips. So you get on your hands. If it stays there for very long, you can get blisters on your hands where this stuff will burn into you, and it gets it can be nasty in a non-volatile form. It can be some rough stuff. But the thing that I've kind of realized over the years is, if you respect it, if you respect what it is, we already know it needs to be contained. We already know it's under pressure. We already know it's going to be cold. We know these things. But we don't want to lose track of, I got to respect this stuff too. Even though I know what it'll do and how it'll do, if I respect it, I'm gonna be able to do this and continue to do it in a safe manner. Bill, as far as safety, I mean, I want everybody to go ahead. Your name, sir?
Yeah, my name's Jeff.
Jeff?
An apron. You should have them have aprons.
Okay,
aprons.
aprons.
And a face shield.
Aprons and a face
Until
shield.
they really get used to it. I mean,
I think that's good counsel. I really do. It's just really important that we have the right equipment.
So this nozzle is going to be a no bleed. It's gonna when you release, it's low emission, so it's just gonna pop right off. So it is gonna be necessary to have gloves and stuff, but there's not gonna be a huge burst of propane. There's gonna be no bleeders on the buses. So for these guys, it's gonna be a lot less risky as it is for us in the field, right? So they are going to be lower emissions. They're not going to have huge bursts of clouds of propane of anything. So in the beginning, yes, for sure, we need to get them.
well, you should always have it anyway.
Right, it should be here, it should be available. They should wear it, and then once they get a hang of things, face shield and gloves will always be.
And you're going to get a lot of people that aren't going to be comfortable.
Right,
First,
right,
too.
right. Yep.
Give them everything they need
Yep.
until they get comfortable.
This one
Exactly.
here is got to be the safest delivery valve out there.
But anything can happen. That hose can break.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, you never know.
No, you don't.
Like everything, you know, kind of prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right?
Yep.
And,
Have everything on site in case they want it.
Yep.
Right,
They can't
yes.
say, well, I didn't have that, you know.
And that's what we don't want. People to get in trouble and say, I didn't know, I didn't have that,
Yeah.
because that reflects on us as the suppliers, and we don't want that to be a bad thing. We want everybody to be safe.
Right, that's it. Sorry.
Number one objective. So, yeah, it's important that we do that right. This particular unit, and we have several different styles of auto gas or bottle fill units that we produce. This one has a Midcom register head, as you can see, and that allows for a lot of different abilities to monitor your propane. Totalizer that helps you do your day-to-day. It's got the ability to communicate different things back and forth. So the Midcom is a good way to go. The electronic part, that's what's good, because in the digital age and the electronic age, that's a good deal. I don't know how many are, probably this group is familiar with the old mechanical Veeder-Root head. Good solid piece, and I like those. Bottle fill, using them for the bottle fill is great. Using this for bottle fill is great. So you're making the transition, I don't know, years ago from the mechanical to the electronic. But there are several different options when it comes to the register head. This particular unit here, we should believe we've got a C16 pump in here. Oh, and by the way, the meter is temperature compensated through the register head. The Midcom will do the temperature compensation. So as this moves forward and people use this and want to know about temperature compensation, it's done through the register head. And I hope, Steve, we was able to get a user guide, right? The Midcom user guide.
Yes.
Just important to have, so that, yeah, I sent it to you in digital form, didn't I? Okay, so I thought it did.
Oh, did come with it?
There was one that come with it, yes.
I didn't get the digital one.
Okay, maybe it was Josh I sent that to. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of options, like to say, and the user guide is very, very good, very friendly. We use the C16 pump, the Corkin C16, because it'll build a higher differential pressure. We all know, we're all gonna know, that motor fuel, they build a lot of heat. Usually the tanks are down near the ground. The asphalt, on a hot day, you're gonna have a lot of pressure in that tank, and we need to build pressure in order to dispense the propane on a warmer day. On cooler tanks, like in the morning, to fill a tank, whether it be bottle or auto gas, whatever, it's always easier to fill a bottle in the morning than it is in the afternoon. So, not that you can't do it in the afternoon, but you're going to have less pressures, dealing with less pressures, if you dispense propane in the morning. And that's just food for thought. If you're ever having a hard time either with auto gas or bottled gas, I remember years ago there was a van pool that took several men and women to work, and they would come back to our site to fill up, and it would be at 5 o'clock at night. And on a 100-degree day, 5 o'clock at night, you've got a lot of pressure in them tanks. We used to get out a garden hose. As funny as that sounds, we used to get out a garden hose and spray on the tank itself to cool it down, reduce the pressure, so that we could go ahead and fill. So any way you can make that cooler, the receiving tank cooler, this unit will work better for dispensing. It's got a liquid tech meter, a Corkin pump, Corkin bypass. One thing I really want to cover, right inside here is our ITR data plate, and our 800 number is on there. And if we ever need service, or when we need service, or if there's questions on how it works or what we can do, Bill and I are available to take the call. Now the 800 number, we'll send it into the main office, and from there, Mary Ann or Abby will go ahead and send the call out to either Bill or I, and we can walk anybody through an issue that may have arose to the unit. This group here will be actually dispensed. Everybody will be dispensing, and this will just be review for you folks. But on our tanks, we have bypasses. And those are there so that when you're filling the bus or an auto gas, you've got it hooked up, you're pumping along, either you've stopped pumping or the auto gas unit has an auto stop on it, and now you've got no flow going into the vehicle. Well, that flow is still getting pumped, and so it's going into our bypass valves right here. So it's very important that our bypass valves are opened up when we're dispensing and the motor's going. And they're just general on-off. No lefty loosey, no, just like our normal valves, like on a home or in a shop, just regular on-off valves. But very important, they are on for bypass purposes. One thing with propane that I've learned over the years is slow is better. Slow is better. You're dealing with pressures again. So it's important when you open a valve that you open it slowly. a lot of check valves in place in propane between your internal valve, excess flow valve, back check valves. Anything that's in this equipment is designed, the parts are made for safety. But if you open a valve too fast, sometimes you will snap an excess flow valve. It's basically saying, I'm not allowed to go 8 gallons, I'm only allowed to go 7 gallons, so that valve will shut down. And we have that in these bypass valves. And in just a second, when we get to the internal valves under the tank, we'll discuss a little bit about excess flow there as well. So anyway, as you can see, we have our bypass here, our breakaway here in the event that you're hooked up to a vehicle, and in the event that somebody drove off with that still attached, this break-off valve would come apart and contain the leak. Any questions? Is there a comment?
No,
We're good?
yeah.
Well, don't be afraid.
I was just saying, it never happened here. We got a hole over here that people have driven away with pumps.
Okay.
Do any of your customers have like mini windsock set up? Just so you guys are used to it, so you won't panic if there's all of a sudden a leak. But somebody who may not be used to it and stuff, their first leak, just to see whether the...
I wouldn't think that. I think that'd be a great idea, just so that you knew.
We'll be providing the windsock. She's not in yet, yep.
That's a great comment and great counsel. Yes, absolutely. You'll know. This right here, the copper line that you see coming out of the cabinet, is for the vapor eliminator on the meter. And so it's very important that the vapor eliminator can communicate with the tank. And I don't know how far and maybe, but everybody should know this anyway. But underneath the lid is the service valve. And that service valve needs to be open when dispensing, because that allows communication with your meter to the tank itself. And we have both tanks, and so the vapor eliminator should be, or the service valve should be open so the vapor can communicate back and forth. And again, if we ever close them or open them, we should do it slowly. Or I like doing it slowly to eliminate issues. And the procedure for startup will be probably the safety folks here at Manchester Transit. I'm sure that they're all over the procedure on opening and closing every day. Whether these valves get turned off or on, again, I don't know that it's critical that every night these valves get turned off. But because the way the Midcom is set up, it will automatically open and close the internal valve. So your liquid's always controlled by the Midcom. Any questions, comments? I see that we already have a sight gauge indicator, the remote. That's a cool thing. They're very, very helpful. On this unit right here, on both these units, you can see we have a 1¼ ball valve here. Here's our 1¼ internal valve, and with the Marshall's power torque actuator. It's pressure driven, and what happens is when our valve is on and we activate the Midcom register head by turning it on, the indicator opens up. You can see that open up right there, and again it's vapor run off of our regulator right over there, and it allows the internals to open and function. And so each session, start, opens our internal, stop, releases our gas. You're going to hear a rush of gas. It's vapor, and that's what is being used to actuate the internal. And I personally really like this system. It takes the air factor out. It's either open or closed, one or the other. And the emergency shut off up there is electric over pneumatic. So if that gets pushed in, or that one over there gets pushed in, you kill the power, the actuator closes. Now you've contained your liquid, all but a little bit that would be in the line, but now you've contained it. We have an excess flow on the back of the hose here. In the event that the breakaway failed, this excess flow would kick in and stop the flow as well. The internal valve down here is excess flow. If for some reason anything sheared off here, excess flow in there, that's going to shut the flow off. All good design stuff. Makes it safe. So the red regulator back here on the back of the unit allows us the pressure, to adjust the pressure to keep the internal valve open. And these actuators can hold 125 pounds of pressure, but they only need 25 pounds to work. So anywhere between 25 and 30 is generally where they should be set to actuate, to make this internal open up by the way the actuators. And questions, comments, anything. Okay. I understand we're going to eventually get a vehicle here. Maybe we can start it, but right now we don't. So, Bill, can you take a second and maybe say a little bit what the Midcom's allowed to do to help?
So this is our register. It's also our start and stop switch. If you don't have power to this thing, either this switch is off and you got to pull it, or the main breaker over here, the main shut-off switch is off. You come out and there's numbers here. Rebooting. So we should have all zeros, or whatever the last fill was will be displayed on here. Tells you that it's in gallons, tells you that it's volume corrected to 60 degrees. If it ever says any errors or calibration mode, it'll tell you that there's an error or calibration mode down here. This can do all kinds of things that we don't use. It is set up to do anything from a bobtail, to be on the back of a bobtail, to just be a simple bottle gas dispenser. Press start stop, it's going to say deliver, valves open, opens the valves, and then it turns on our pump. We're good to go, we're pressurized. Press start stop, valves closed. For what you guys are doing, that's basically all you're going to have to do. There's not a lot more that you're going to get into on this, other than possibly the totalizer reading, if you guys keep track of the totalizer. So to do that, you press mode, it says total, start stop, comes in, says 20.82, it's your totalizer reading. Eventually it'll be so many numbers over, you have to arrow over. But start stop goes back to deliver mode, and you guys are good to go. If you're out here and somebody's messing with it and they keep pressing mode, it goes into all kinds of different options you guys won't ever need. You just go keep pressing mode until you get to exit, start stop, goes back into our deliver mode. For you guys,
Question.
yes.
Can Manchester Transit Authority block that into that one mode that's off and on from the driver or the person that's filling the vehicle, so they don't have to worry about that mode thing?
That's a good question that I don't know. I don't believe so. There is password in there, but I think you can still hit mode, and it just won't let you into any of the other screens.
That would probably be good if they just that on and off.
Yeah.
Be able to get into anything else.
Yeah, I mean, here it shouldn't be an issue. Other places you get people that come out and they know that if they hit mode 5 times, all of a sudden you can't fill propane today, and you guys have to come out and hit it 3 more times to get it out of that mode and say don't touch it again. For these guys it shouldn't be that kind of an issue. But yeah, there's a lot of things in here you guys can do, but for this installation there's nothing else that you need to do. You can hook up printers, you can calibrate it, you can put in all kinds of different
Timers, all
features,
kinds of stuff.
but we're not going to use them. The other question I had is, are you guys planning on to use this one tank at a time? And when this tank goes empty, you guys want them to switch to this tank? Or do you want to use both tanks all the time?
Both tanks all the time.
All right. So then right now it's set up just one tank is coming out. So we need to open up all the valves and make sure that they're all done equally. So when you shut off valves, you need to make sure both tanks get shut off equally, both tanks get turned on equally.
Question,
Yeah.
can that be set up to, like, individualize each bus that we fill by number?
So
Like, in other words, so when we come out and track it at the end of the week or the end of the day, it tells us how much we put in each vehicle?
So this particular unit, to do that, requires an add-on unit that's a fuel management system, just like your gas boy. So right now, this is just like the diesel pump. It just does whatever you put in it, and that's it. It can though take a gas boy. You could program it and hook up a gas boy is one that we can do to this Midcom, and they'll communicate with each other. I don't see why not.
So we keep track of every vehicle.
Right.
How much fuel we put in, miles and gallons, so forth.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't actually. So if whoever does that kind of stuff, if you get with GasBoy and let them know that you have a Midcom register, they'll know what it is for propane, because they use this on all kinds of fuels. You probably get it for gasoline, honestly.
Yeah.
Or diesel, yeah. So that's something that they should know, GasBoy should know, a Midcom register, and it would just be an additional pump on the GasBoy system.
One thing I've noticed on the Midcom, working with that on occasion, is obviously a lot of what we do is bottle fill, and you'll see them at BJ's or Treasure Supplies, different places. You'll see the Midcom is there. Midcom is obviously just a little computer, and I've had some of the attendants call and say, our Midcom's all messed up, it's not working right. Won't do this today, won't do that. It's much like any other computer. If you turn it off, like cut the power to it, like our phones and everything else, and then you let it sit for a minute or two, and then you turn the power back on, the Midcom will come back online. So every now and again it needs a reboot.
So when you guys get a bus in here, right? Bus is going to be parked here. Take your hose, come over. Odds are, hopefully, it's this connection. There is one other connection that it could be, and if it is that style, we'll have to change out this delivery handle. You're going to come out, you're going to hook it up, come over here, press start, stop. It's going to reset. So this one, you can pull this handle, no gas will come out until it is connected to the bus. As soon as it's connected to the bus, pull the handle, it'll start filling. This has a dead man on it, so you let go, it shuts off, it seals off, will not pump. So you have to sit and hold this the entire time. If there's an emergency for whatever reason, hit that, it closed the belly valve, shut off the electronics, and then you can deal with whatever emergency that you have on hand. When you're done, you're going to disconnect this. With this particular style, you're going to get a little psst, and then it's pop right off, no problem. The other style, when you let go of this handle, it's going to go poop, and it's going to just pop right off the valve. So it just depends on which one you guys are going to get. Are they Bluebird?
Yes.
I believe they're.
Are they the European style?
I believe they are the European style. So it'll be just an easy tweak, but for what you guys are doing, this is very, very simple. It's not scary. We went over a lot of scary stuff, but for what you guys are going to be doing, it's pretty simple. The biggest thing is just be prepared. Make sure you have your PPE, all that stuff. Yeah. Any questions on?
When filling, is there an automatic shut-off?
So in your bus, there will be, yes. Buses are equipped with a tank that has an auto stop, is what they call it. There's no bleeder necessary, there's no nothing. If you guys were using older motor fuel system, there's a bleeder. I mean, we're going back to the
Way back.
90s,
Outage valve,
80s,
yeah.
70s. I'm not that old, he is. But you had an outage valve, you would open it up, and when it started spitting liquid, you would shut it off. And you had to manually shut everything off. This is all automatic. For you guys that haven't seen propane, so inside this cabinet, there is, that's what liquid propane looks like. You get your cloud, and it vaporizes off. So that's a little, that's inside, that's for us to do some diagnostics stuff if there's ever an accident, but just so you guys get a feel for what it looks like. If you've never smelled propane, you can come over and smell it. Greg assumed everybody had smelled it. I don't know. Some of you might have electric barbecuers or something. I don't know.
So the end of day procedure is going to be for the phone?
So
They're going to shut that system down?
now this is all up to you guys, and these guys, of course. This system is shutting off the most important valve every single time you make a delivery. The liquid internal is being turned on when you press start. It's being turned off when you press stop. Now the rest of the valves are all in vapor space. They're all protected with really small excess flows. So if there was a rupture of the pipe at night, it would shut off and you would just release a little bit of the vapor. You would be releasing vapor, not liquid. So you can do a lot of damage to the valves by cranking them down and up all day, every day. And so I personally recommend that you just leave this system on all the time because the internal's opening and closing, and that's the most important valve. If they want you to, it's up to them. Then you can close the liquid ball valves, you can close the vapor valves.
So I'll speak for Dead River. I wouldn't have anybody from MTA touching any of the valves.
Yes.
The only thing that we would like you guys to do is fill your buses and just use the fill valve and the Midcom. All the other valves are already set. They're where they're supposed to be, and we'll manage those. There's obviously, like you said, a lot of up and down usage of them to wear them out. So we'll set those and leave them where they need to be and manage those.
Yeah.
Cabinets will be locked.
The cabinets will be locked. I do have 2 sets of keys. You guys can have a set of keys if you need it, but the cabinets will stay locked.
Yeah.
Is there a shut-off
For the pump in the cabinets. I'm trying to think.
Oh, no.
At the night, I don't want, that's not gonna be.
At the end of the night, if you want to do something, you hit that button right there. You come in the morning, the first person to fill, turn this on, and you're good to go. With this off, nobody can start it, nobody can open the internal, you can't get liquid out. It's designed to be as safe as possible.
We're gonna have to set something up that, this thing can be shut off. So we can shut the breakers here.
Yeah, do you guys shut off your gas pumps at night? Your diesel pumps at night?
Yeah, they can't get on unless they use the gas.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
So we'll have to shut the breaker down, just so in case someone gets on the property.
Yeah.
They're not here.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they would have to know that this button, you'd have to know how to use it, but if you shut your breaker off, you're good.
Right.
The biggest problem that we run into is, as long as these guys know what you do, you get somebody new in here at 6 a.m., they can't fill their bus, you guys might not be here, and they go, well, there's no power to it. They call them and they're like, okay, we'll be there in a minute. They don't know what you did to shut it off. So as long as you communicate with everybody what
We
happens,
don't
we're
have
good.
drivers to do the fuel.
Okay, you guys are all gonna do it all, okay, perfect.
The question originally, we did ask us to repeat the question. Okay. So
Yeah,
the
so
question
if they-
originally was, can it be accessed without, like the gas boy? How would it be accessed? And Bill answered that.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you just repeat the questions when they're asked. Thank you.
Okay,
More questions.
more questions?
Just an odd question. Do you shut all the breakers off to all these, or do you just leave everything on all the time?
Everything on.
These are on, because you can't access these without the gas. Yeah.
Right, but I guess my question is, I see we're gated in here, so no one's coming in. It's a transit district, so do they run 24 hours, or do you just run?
Oh, some come in late.
Okay, so-
After we close up around 9:30 at night, well, a little earlier now, but we will be. And, sometimes buses come in late, they just drive in, but they don't do any of the fueling. So
Okay,
I just, who knows what's over the fence and get in.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of transients around here.
Yeah.
Oh, is there?
So,
Okay.
so you remember I showed you that you can't release propane, right? You cannot hook this up to your barbecue bottle either. So the only thing this will hook to is motor fuel or a forklift. Fill your forklift with it too.
I just think it'd be an extra space.
Yeah,
to shut the
absolutely.
breaker off.
I agree. Yep.
I mean, if we eventually get it hooked to gas.
Yeah, then it would be set.
Then it'd be accessed that way.
And that's something Greg can work with
Yeah.
too. He can help you figure that part out. So, you got liquid here, so they'll open all your valves. You shouldn't have any other issues. So. You guys want to see what's in here, just so your mind is not curious. Come out here and pick the lock just to see what's in it.
I just have the question to make sure it's locked so no one wants to be curious later.
And for you guys, over here on the pump, we have a pressure gauge on here so you can help set the differential pressure. I don't know who set it up. Did anybody go through and set the bypass?
So we had our meter guy.
The
go
meter
through
guy did that?
Everything, and then
Okay.
everything was set up when we got in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Was it determined that we wanted them to run the tanks down the same
Yes.
all the time? Okay, so that in mind, we'll open up that yellow handle ball valve, this bypass, and make sure this service valve's open, and do the same thing on that tank as well. The cool thing about that is they bleed down, or they empty together, and that's a good thing rather than different pressures, because you'll have different pressures with different volumes.
Okay.
Questions, comments? If they're bad comments, we'll go over here for a minute.
So make the connection. Make sure there's no sources of ignition near us, right? Make sure nobody's around that should be around. Press start, stop. Tell us valve's open. Pump kicks on. pull the handle, we start pumping. How many gallons is this?
This, it's not empty. It's probably, I'm gonna say you probably put maybe 19 or 20 gallons in the thing. I can let you know as soon, well, you'll know anyway.
Yeah, we wanna hear some stuff.
We'll give some
So
guys a chance.
when this is off, when you're done, right? Let's say it's full. You let go. You hear that? That's all that it does. So the other one, when you let go on your buses, when you let go, and this will pull right off. There'll be less. There'll be actually less gas release than that. But you guys can smell that, right?
My pickup, we could do a demo on the diesel one, fill my tank.
You have.
You want to give a couple guys?
Propane injection on your diesel.
Want to try? Want to do it? You want to do it?
Oh, over there. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be doing enough to get later.
Man, that really moves some gas.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yes, so.
12 gallons.
That's a fast pump. That's a good pump.
Cooking some burgers.
Faster than diesel. Just don't send it to Tommy, alright?
No, Stevie, send me whatever. Are you filling in this?
Yep.
I should have taken it.
We're gonna be staying up.
Seeing my bulb spot.
That's all right.
Okay, so did you hear that change?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's full. No more gas going in. Let go. Boom. Reach over here. Your guys's will pop off. You'll just hang it up here and start stopping.
So when it does that, is it like evaporating as soon as it comes out?
Yes. Correct.
Just because it's so warm?
Yep. And it's just such a small amount. He's got a cap.